me? Okay, I'll put myself here. So once you log in, it's going to look like this. This on the right is my little how to apply to college master doc. We'll talk about that in a second. But basically, what happens is you just log in. It shows you your little dashboard, but there's nothing here. The first thing you'll notice are like all these kind of little tabs. And we'll go through, I guess, like these first four because financial aid, like that's the whole FAFSA thing. We'll do another thing talking about that. But basically, the comment, no, you have to go on a stage. It's okay. It's okay. It's all recorded. It'll be fine. And I have a similar live recording of this on my Instagram, I think, if you go to like the Reels tab. Anyway, the Common Application is basically a free application portal, as in free to make an account and sign up, but not necessarily free to apply to colleges. And we'll talk about that in a second. But it allows you to apply up to, I think, like 20 schools with just one application. But each school may have their own essays and additional questions and application fees. And then again, not every school is actually on the Common Application. Like the UCs have their own application portal. I think every college pretty much has their own application portal, but they also accept applications through the Common App. I would say submit through the Common App. Most kids do. Like they're not going to love your application more because you sent it through their individual portal. So just keep that in mind. And it opens, or it already opened August 1st. So woohoo, you should definitely make an account and go through, we'll talk about it more, but this Common App tab before you actually start your senior year. Something that was helpful for me was actually making an email entirely dedicated. I'm going to post this recording probably on my website, happyjordan.com. We'll see, but I'll definitely let y'all know. I did not transfer to Harvard. I got here back in like September 2019. I'm just a regular first year applicant. But basically, I found it helpful to make an email specifically for my Common App stuff because that's how interviewers will reach out to you when they're like, okay, we saw your application. We want to like get to know more about you. So they'll find your email through this. And again, I'm going to post this recording on my website probably. So just like be aware of that, or maybe on YouTube. Sometimes I do it on YouTube too, but I'll definitely let y'all know in the classroom. So you're able to do that. If you don't want to make your own email, that's fine, but just be on top of whatever email you use for Common App because they will send you application updates whenever they come through to that email address. So make sure you're actually like paying attention to it. As you can see, the Common Application has like a couple different sections, but first we're going to start with this little My Colleges tab. So basically, this is how you'll apply to each individual school. And you obviously can't just be like, okay, I want to like send it to every school on the planet. No, you have to like actually find the ones that you want to apply to. And the way you'll do that is you'll already have a school list, and then you'll go to college search and you'll be able to search up schools. We were probably like, Jordan, I don't even know how to freaking build a college list. Do I have a Google Meet link so I can join, or Zoom link? No, I don't. This Zoom link that I have right now is just for recording it. We're gonna switch to Zoom in a couple of weeks, like when the school year starts. I just want to like get an idea of how many people actually show up, so I'm not like spending $1 billion on Zoom. But yeah. Oh, maybe I'll do like YouTube in the future. I should have added that to the survey. But anyway, the way you're gonna find colleges to actually apply to is my OG bigfuture.collegeboard.org. I love it right here. This is also linked somewhere on my site. But what you'll do is you'll go to Plan for College and then click College Search. And it'll basically allow you to filter through different schools by like location, major type, size, all those kinds of little things, and whatever. When you're building your college list, I find it helpful to keep track of the schools that you like in a Google spreadsheet. So this is the one that I made when I was applying. It has all the universities I was thinking about applying to. I had their location, I had their price, acceptance rate, decision deadlines, like when you would be applying, how I would apply to them. So it's like Common App or like an institution, what their testing policy is, then their average SAT, English, and math sections. But obviously now testing is like a little bit more optional. But this is like a nice way to kind of keep track of what you actually want to do or what colleges you're looking into. And then the bolded schools are the ones I actually apply to. So my final college application tracker thing is this. This is the one that obviously I used when I was applying myself. And you can download kind of the template for this by going to happyjordan.com, and then it's college and then application tracker, and you can find an empty one. Just go ahead and like make a copy of it, whatever. And it helps to have just all the information in one place. So anyway, let's say I'm a kid. Let's go back to like, I guess fall 2018. And I'm like, okay, I want to apply to Harvard. So I'm going to search up Harvard. or whatever school, and then you're going to click add. It's literally so easy because as soon as you click add, if you go back to your colleges, it'll show up. But this is really, really important. We'll talk about this when we get to kind of like supplements, but it'll give you the like college's information. So like, okay, their website, whatever, you don't really like need to look at this. Something to keep in mind is the application fee. It's different for each school. Sometimes it's 65, sometimes it's 85, sometimes it's 100. And then of course you can get fee waivers, but each school has their own kind of policy for how you can get a fee waiver. And then you also want to see their standardized test policy. I really encourage you to actually go to the individual school's website to check that out though. And then you'll also see like what they want for recommendations. A lot of this, your teacher or your guidance counselor is responsible for sending, like school report, obviously your counselor recommendation, mid-year report, final report. Those are all things your guidance counselor touches, but you just want to make sure you have your teacher's recommendations. And then here you'll see their writing requirements, which is also really important. They want the Common App personal essay. I think all schools on the Common App do because hello, it's Common App. And then they have additional questions. And then here it says that the college does not require a writing supplement, but when you go to questions, sometimes it actually does. So if you go to like short answers, or like it'll be different for each school and we could check out another one. But it said they don't require supplements, but like obviously they do because they have this square. So just make sure you're like really digging through each college. So basically recapping, you want to get your little colleges together before you start adding them to the Common App. Like I would only add colleges to your little dashboard, to your like my colleges page, if you already know like, yeah, I'm definitely going to apply, just because there is a limit of how many schools you can add. Okay. Comment any questions as we go through this, but I think that's pretty simple. Next, we'll go to the actual Common application itself. So this is the meat of the application, but it's the really easy part that I would encourage all of you to complete actually like now before you get back to school in September, just because these first couple parts are actually so easy. Like profile, just like, okay, what's your name? What's your birthday, address, demographic, all that kind of stuff, like Common App fee waiver. That's how you would qualify for it, or like express interest that you want to qualify for it. So all these things are so easy, literally will take less than an hour. Same thing with family. It's like, who do you live with? What school did your parents go to? Slash what's like their highest education level? When did they graduate? This, that, and the third. Do you have any siblings? Where do they go to school? Education is really simple and straightforward as well. Like you obviously, I think you'll like search for your high school here. You'll put when you started and for more information about the school. You're gonna, if you like transferred high schools, you would put that here. If you were a dual enrollment student at a community college or a small, like a state school near you, you could put that here as well. You'll put your GPA, whether it's weighted or unweighted. You'll put the courses you're going to take this year. And then this is where kids have some questions. So this is found in the education section, and it's the honors kind of tab or drop down. Basically, they're asking, do you have any kind of honors or awards? It used to be called the honors and awards section, but whatever. This is where you would put NHS. I was a National Hispanic Scholar, which is like an SAT kind of like qualification thing. So you'd put that there. My school actually did not give out honors awards until senior year graduation. Why do you have two separate classrooms? Basically, there's no difference between the section. It's just that the max class size, if you're not like a real school, is 250 students. So that's the only reason why I have different sections. So the honors part doesn't count as a 10 activity section. Yes, correct. So this, you can have up to 5 honors here, and they are not at all like the activity section, just because you actually can't elaborate on them. So here, like if we go through, like I was in NHS in my school. So you would put the years that you were involved and you'll include the levels of recognition. But as you can see, you actually can't, there's no sentence or area where you could say like, okay, and this is what I did as a member of NHS. Do I proofread essays? Yes, but I'm going to be starting that soon. So basically, when the school year or right before the school year starts up, I'm going to do a little announcement on my Google Classroom. Like, okay, I'm going to take in a Google form with all of the essay requests, and that'll be a whole thing. Just make sure you're in it and like paying attention. But yeah, it is not free, unfortunately, because I do go kind of ham with those essay edits. But yeah, so honors, you don't have a chance to explain. This is like if you won some kind of award. You do not need to have won an award in order to get into a top 20 school. What happens if you already started school? Good for you. I mean, I love that for you. I'll be doing essay edits. Literally, I'll probably open it later this week, so don't worry. I'm from Toronto, NHS like student council. No. So in some schools it might be like that, but National Honor Society is basically this organization that's like, we love students who give back to the community and have good grades. So every school has their own specific requirements, but usually requires some kind of club involvement in your school and then a minimum GPA. And you may have to volunteer in your school in the community, but they don't often run stuff in the school. So it's not exactly like a student council. Could you put National Technical Honor Society? Of course, there are a couple of different honor societies. I know there's like National Latin Honor Society. You could definitely put those here. My only exception for that is if, say, you were the president of the National Honor Society, like that would go ahead and put that here. But I would really want to, oh, thank you for the little heart. I would really want to have you elaborate on that in the activity section, just because you actually like spent a lot of time in it. Okay, we'll go to the activity section in a second. But just to finish out this education part, we have the community-based organizations. There are some that's like little, like big, not, what am I saying, little brothers? Like big brother, big sister, little sister, prep for prep. I'm sure y'all have heard of some of these, especially if you're a student of color. Like Girl Scouts is one of them, Girls Inc. Like these are things you've probably heard of. You don't have to be a part of it in order to get into any of these schools, but just know that if you're a part of it, you can highlight that here. And then you want to include your future plan. So it's like when you want to actually start the school, what's the highest degree you want to actually earn? I think at the time when I was applying, I put PhD because I wanted to be a professor. And then of course you want to put your career interest. It's totally okay if you're undecided. Obviously, no one's going to hold you to this. No one expects an 18-year-old to truly understand what they want to do. I think some like 40 to 60% of college students change their majors in college. So no one's going to hold you to it, but it is helpful for them to build their community. How much do you think your starting rates for the essays are? It depends on the length of the essay, but something like 300 words would probably go for like $50 or less. That's for essay editing. So yeah, that's like the education section. Next, we'll go on to testing. So obviously a lot of y'all back in my day, as in like 4 or 5 years ago, we had to like, it was just a normal thing that we were all taking the SAT and all the, what? Do y'all see this Duolingo English test? That's crazy. Shout out to Duolingo. Good for them. Anyway, so this is where you would put the SAT. You might put your AP exams here too. Let's check. Yeah, so you would put your AP exams. That's what an AP subject test is. SAT subject tests, which are different from APs. IBs, if you're an IB student, obviously the TOEFL, if you're an international student, all this kind of things, right? This is where you would put that. And then this is like for international applicants. So for me, because I said I want to do SAT, let's say I want to put ACT and AP because I'm a high achiever and I took every single test to ever exist. So if we took a college course during sophomore year at a community college, where do we put that? You would put that in the education section under colleges and universities. So this is if you're specifically like a dual enrollment student or if you've taken classes at another college, not if you've taken APs, and you would be able to like search, you will put the dates that you were doing it. Sometimes you earn a degree, sometimes you just took 1 or 2 classes, and that's fine. And you'll be able to like say which classes you took. Also, it'll like show up on your transcript. So don't worry too much about that, but it's helpful to indicate it here. We're at testing. Okay, yeah. So I'm an overachiever. I took every single exam to ever exist. So I don't know, I took the ACT like 3 billion times. But let's say I've already taken it once. I want to take it one more time. I do want to report the writing score. Basically, choosing these little buttons will have these little options pop up of like, okay, what was your highest English score? What was your highest science and reading and math scores and all those things. So pretty straightforward. Again, it shouldn't take you longer than an hour to do that. And then same thing with like SATs. If I've taken it twice and I say I didn't do the essay, then that little box won't pop up. But again, it'll have you put the dates and the scores. Make sure you don't just guess the scores. You want to actually, you don't physically like need your report yet, because it actually costs money to send these schools the official reports. But obviously, after you take an exam, you get the score breakdown. That's what you want to use to make sure you're getting the exact numbers right. Because if you lie, which you should never lie in this process, but if someone lied or made a mistake and said they got a 1500 when they got like a 1400, and 1400 is still a good score. So like, don't lie. But say you did that, when you actually get into the school, they're going to request an official testing report. So you just want to make sure those numbers are exactly the same. So please line them up. Can we ask questions even when we are on the live due to being busy? Yes, of course. Do you know any information about QuestBridge? Yes, I think nomination, all that application stuff is happening now. Basically, QuestBridge is for low-income students. I think sometimes first gen as well. I need to like do a little bit more research. We can talk about it, I can make a video about it, but just know that like you have to apply to QuestBridge and you have to apply to colleges. Like it's not like just QuestBridge. Like when you're in QuestBridge, you get matched to the schools, but you go through the regular application process as well. So yeah, that's pretty much it for the test section. It's very straightforward. Again, I think you could fill out these 4, like profile, family, education, and testing within like 2 or 3 hours if you just have the information. So please sit down and fill them out before you go to school this year. Do you know any good online free ACT prep? I'm planning on taking my first one in September. Well, first, good luck to you. Shout out to ACTs. I was not an ACTer. So I don't know any that I've used personally. I do know though that like for every standardized exams, there will always be practice exams that are available for free. You can also get test prep books oftentimes from your library, but because the ACT is like well known and it's a little bit old, you can probably find free PDFs. Princeton Review, Barron's Review are like kind of things that people like. But there are definitely a whole bunch. I think I took a Kaplan course when I did SAT, so I'm sure they also have ACT courses as well. Obviously, the courses aren't free, but you might be able to find the free kind of like PDFs online. Also watch YouTube videos of like channels and stuff because these tests are very, very similar to each other. And sometimes it's more about like tricking you and learning how to take the test rather than your actual knowledge. Yeah. Do you help people with their essays? Yes, I help people plan and write their essays. So yeah, we could do that. Just join the classroom because I'm going to be talking more about essay editing later on this week. If we receive the Coursera certifications related to our major, where should we put that? I think there is sometimes a section either in education. Let me check. Because there's usually a section somewhere. Oh, you know what? It might be in the writing section. In the additional information. Let's see. I need to find it. But there's a section somewhere that specifically talks about additional academic stuff. So actually it might be the writing section, but I didn't look at it too closely. We'll do that in a second. But there is a space there for sure. I took a Princeton practice test. I got a 28. That is pretty good for your first time. Obviously, make sure you see what you got wrong and what kinds of questions you got wrong. I love people who could like max out one of the sections. But if you get like a 99% in science and math, but you have like a 70% in reading, like don't try to get a 100% in the science and math, like try to boost up that reading score. But again, obviously you still want to practice, make sure you're doing good. What else? What did you put for NHS honors again? Okay, so for you, because you're president of NHS honors, I would say, well, one, put it in the honor section in the, where is it? That's not activities. It was in the education and then honors. So you're going to put it here and you're going to say National Honor Society president, and you will also put it in the activity section, which we will finally get to. And let me just close out these little college lists because we've already done that. So in the activities section, and I got my little notes here. This is obviously where you talk about all your clubs, sports, if you're in musicals like me, if you have family responsibilities, volunteering, sports, everything, that's where everything goes. Anything that you spent a significant amount of time on in school goes in the activity section. As some of y'all know, there is a limit of only like 10 activities. So I would actually encourage you to look at the format of this, but not actually fill it out until you know exactly what 10 activities you're putting in what order. But yeah, you also only have 150 characters to talk about each thing. And obviously we can go through it in a second, but that's another reason why I would want you to like do it in a separate Google document. Like when I was applying, I did it over here. Like I just listed out every single activity I did. Obviously this is way more than 10, but then I was like, okay, let me rank them and see which one I actually think matters more. What do I want to be able to show them that I like put my time into? But if you're able to do this first, like this is a complete list, and then I think this was the actual list of 10 or something close to the list of 10 that I submitted. And then you want to write your little sentences again in a Google Doc before you actually go ahead and submit them. So basically what you're going to do, your first activity, wait, if you want a double major, and also if they don't have that second major, so it's different for each school. Some schools will allow you to put exactly what majors you want. Some schools will say, like, oh, just give us a general range, like biological sciences, natural sciences, humanities, social, like they'll give you ranges. But usually if you want a double major and say one of your majors are there and the other one isn't, like, don't worry, no one's looking too hard. Like, choose the second major that's closest to the one that you actually want to study, but don't feel so pressured and stressed that like, oh my God, I can't perfectly represent what I want to do. Like, no one's going to hold you to it. Can you make a video about a timeline for junior year? Of course I can. Where should we put volunteer hours that we got affiliated with the club or program? Here in the activity section, which I'll go through, obviously continuing to do that now. How do you list parent too if there's abandonment? Would it be limited info or still father? So it depends. I think it depends on the phrasing, because it's who are you living with now? Like who's in your permanent home? So because of that, you would only put parent 1. And then parent 2 should go away. Or actually, no, I guess not. But basically it's like, okay, I have limited information about this parent. I don't have another parent to list. Like you're able to put that information there. What are your thoughts on Young Scholar Program in UPenn? I don't know if that, well, one second. All schools do have an undecided major option. Yes, I encourage students to not pick that though. And then what are your thoughts on Young Scholar? I don't know what that is, but it sounds like one of those summer programs that they have for high schoolers. And I could like double check that. But if it is, and it's one of those things where they make you pay thousands of dollars, that will not help you get into the school. If it's a diversity fly-in where they're like, this is how we outreach and recruit students of color and low-income students and previously unrepresented like minorities, then that's a good program to do. But if they just make you pay a whole bunch of money to go spend the night on campus, don't do it. For AP scores, it says to include tests you expect to take. Do we not put a number? No, if you're going to take another exam in the future, go ahead and put that. However, I would say like wait until you get your score back. Like personally, I would wait until I get my score back from that like future exam, unless obviously it's like early applications and the deadlines are weird, because then you could actually see the score before you send it to them. Otherwise, you just have to send the score report. I could proofread your essay, join the Google Classroom. Do you recommend filling out all 10 spots for the activity section? No, only if you have 10 extracurriculars worth talking about. So as you could see here, like these were all of the extracurriculars I did in high school. Some of these I barely did at all, or I feel like they definitely wouldn't add much because I talked about it in my essay, or I like didn't really contribute much. There's no reason for me to do that. So I would say that's why I say like list all of them first, then organize them by most importance by like role and also length of time you've been involved in and any contributions you've made, because that's what would actually matter. Anything you've done for like 2+ years, go ahead and put it automatically. But if you like go to a meeting once every other month and y'all don't really do anything, you don't contribute to it, then like don't feel stressed to do that. And no problem. If it's I don't have time to submit the AP scores, then that's fine. You should sometimes with that, they don't actually, let's check the AP subject test. Yeah, including tests you expect to take. I would say go ahead and do it. I think I did this as well. Yeah, because these are ones that like I already took. But as you could see, like Calc AB, I didn't take the exam yet. Like APUSH, I didn't take or I did take the exam. But like the ones I was taking in my senior year, I didn't put them in because I hadn't taken the exam. Go ahead and do that because it'll show up on your transcript that you're taking it. It'll show up in education where you list your senior year courses. that you're taking it. So just like go ahead and do it anyway. Okay, yes, back to the activity section. I started diversity night at my school through student council. How would I highlight? In the activity section, which I know I've been dancing around forever. So you're going to go through the activity type, and that sounds like student government. So we would pick student government. And then you're going to do a little position leadership description. This is where I usually put the title that I currently have. Title/titles. As you can see, max characters is only 50. So it's really just for your titles, no explanation. Then you want to put the organization name, put the full, like no abbreviations, because these people usually don't know what you're talking about. And then you're going to write one sentence, so like 1 or 2 sentences, 150 characters, explaining what you did with the activity. But instead of saying, I led weekly meetings or I did this, you want to make sure you're able to stand out. And let me go back to my little activities thing. You want to make sure you're able to give them a reason to admit you. Like the way college applications are reviewed is they print out your Common App and your essays and all that stuff, your recommendation letters. And then they go through, usually reading it in pairs, and they're like, what do we love about this student? You want to make sure you give them enough reasons to love you and accept you. So that's what I have. That's what you want to do in these little sentences. So it's like, okay, I organized this new initiative that my school had never done before, or we hosted a feminine hygiene product drive for a local shelter and like donated 500 pounds of something. Like you want to make sure you're able to quantify whenever possible. Obviously, name dropping things is cool, like I did here, but just make sure you're including little recognition, impact, numbers. Everyone knows I love impact more than anything. Of course, you want to put your participation grade levels, when it happens, sometimes during the school year, sometimes break, all years, hours spent per week, weeks per year, all this stuff. And would you want to do something similar in college? Obviously, no one's going to hold you to this, but yeah. And then you'll go ahead and like you can rearrange the order of these activities, obviously put them in order of importance. And then, yeah, you're going to go through that with all of your activities that you want to include. It looks like I did 10 activities. Wow, go me. But there are definitely some here that like, actually, I like these ones. I like the ones that I put, but you definitely don't need to feel like pressure to put all 10. Should you send your AP score if you got a 3? If a student doesn't send their AP score, you would assume they got a 1 or 2. So that's the only reason why I tell kids, if you have a 3, send it. Because if you don't send it, I'm going to assume you got a 1. So I would say go ahead. Is it useless to start new clubs senior year, even if they possibly align with your major? Well, one, nothing has to align with your major. Like most of y'all know, I'm a math physics girl, but I didn't do any extracurriculars that had to do with that. All of my extracurriculars were related to like pageants and education and activism. And it was my classes that showed I was really interested in STEM. The only thing is if you start a club in your senior year, it may seem like you're starting the club just for college apps, which like, I don't know. I think the way that I think is helpful to think about it is like, okay, if I was reading a student's application, would I accept or deny a student based on this one factor? And chances are, like starting a club, no, that's not something that I would say, yes, we should keep them, or no, we should like not have them. But if you start a club that's able to get national recognition and donate like a whole bunch of stuff or have a really big impact in your school, like obviously there's a lot you can do in 3 or 4 months, but it's like I'd be way more inclined to accept a student who started a club in their senior year that was able to get a lot done in those 3 or 4 months versus someone who just started a club and did nothing with it. So it's not going to make or break your application, like just having the club itself, but it's what you do with that club. I didn't do many activities during 9th grade, but I did win 2nd place. How could I max 11? Okay, I also didn't do activities in 9th grade, so don't worry about it. Like, don't stress too much about that. For this 2nd place award that you're talking about, I would add that in honors. What else? I did many clubs for all 4 years, but they weren't really anything because I was just a member. Include some of them for sure, because it shows that you're actually interested in that, like you did do it. And include any kind of like in the little sentence explanation, include any kind of larger project that your club did because you participated in that. I started a diversity night. Yeah, we talked about that. Could I put that I helped paint a mural in my school in the activity section? Yes. Oh, I'm sorry, the audio cuts off. I don't know why that is happening, but hopefully it gets itself together. You could put that in the activity section, but I would say any kind of long-standing commitment matters more than that, just because that's a one-time thing. Like regular commitments, weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, that matters more. And sorry if the audio is clipping out, because this is going to be recorded and then I'll upload it and then the audio will be fine there. But that's the activity section. Let me see if there's anything else I left out. I already said do this in a Google Doc and then paste it into Common App. Order them by importance, so like leadership positions, time commitment, or length of participation. Quality over quantity always. So don't add meaningless stuff just to fill up the 10 spots. Like you don't need to have 10 activities to get accepted into any school, even those top 10s. And of course, you want to make sure you're giving a highlight reel of your accomplishments and include numbers and tangible impact, because 150 characters is a very, very small space. Are you just doing activity section today? No, we're about to, I already covered pretty much everything before here, like the rest of the Common App, and then we'll go on to the writing. And I'll talk a little bit about rec letters and like resumes. Are you going to post a Google Doc? Secret hack, this Google Doc is already available. If you go to happyjordan.com and click read the guide, that's the Google Doc that I'm literally on. And it's 23 pages long. It is your complete guide to college applications. We love her. She's like MVP. I put a lot of time into that. Can you share the doc with your activities? Yes, I can do that. I'll put a little example together with like my little sentences. I just usually like to make sure that it's nothing that people can copy. So I could do that. Just give me like a day or two to get that together. Okay, please put the link. It's just happyjordan.com. It's like the link in my bio. Like the link in my bio is just happyjordan.com/social. So if you just get rid of the social. Happy Jordan with IE, like this account, HAPPIE Jordan.com. But yeah. Okay, should teachers we meet senior year write our letters of rec? No, they should not, because they don't know you. So basically, let's see if I have a recommendation letter section here. Yes, I do. So what's going to happen is you have to ask usually 2 people to write your recommendation letters, 2 teachers, and then you'll have your guidance counselor who's just going to write it anyway, because they have to write a rec for every kid in the school. So if you can meet with your guidance counselor, which major key to all of you, meet with your guidance counselor in the first 2 months of school, please, so they can write something nice about you and they know who you are. But you're going to ask 2 teachers to write your recommendation letters, and those teachers have to be from your junior year. They have to be. I love you guys, but I also don't love excuses. So no sophomore year, no freshman year. And no senior year either. The reason why I'm saying this is because college admissions officers are making bets on students. That's what, especially when you look at the top 10, top 20, top 30 schools, their whole game is like, okay, I'm trying to make a like campus community of students who are cool and who are going to do cool things when they're at school, like at my college, and then they're going to do cool things in life. So then when they're really successful, they're like, wow, I'm so successful because college ABC introduced me to great people and like gave me all this confidence. And because college ABC gave me all this confidence, I'm actually going to donate $1 billion trillion to college ABC. Colleges or private colleges and universities are a business. They want money. So the college application process is a bet. They want to make sure that they're betting on kids who are going to get like their little return investment on. And recommendation letters is really important in that, because that's the only piece of information that they have that doesn't come from you. So when you're going to go and apply to colleges, obviously you're going to be like, I'm a star, I've done this, that, and the third, I've done all these really cool things. But the rec letters tell these people like, okay, is Jordan lying, or is she actually as cool as she thinks she is? So you need to choose teachers who actually know you well, and not like someone that you go and like cry your heart out to. Like I was not someone who cried to any teacher. I didn't have teacher best friends. I know some people do, but I didn't. I was just a good student. I participated in class. I just did whatever, sometimes I messed up in class and then I would fix it. I was able to show my little growth or improvement. So you want to choose teachers who've known you for that whole year, instead of just teachers who've like seen you for 1 month and have to write your rec letter. So that's why it has to be from junior year. Ideally, if you can get 1 STEM, 1 humanities, that's great, because STEM and humanities fields require different skills to succeed. That was a long little thing, but that's obviously something I feel very passionate about. Can you put your hobbies like painting in the activity section? Only, I would say only if you've produced something with it. Like, think again back to our little like, okay, college admissions officers are just gamblers and they're trying to bet on students and their success. Like, would I admit someone just because they like to paint? No. But would I admit someone because they painted and maybe hosted a local art gallery or maybe got their art featured in a local art gallery? Yeah, I'd be more inclined to admit them. So it's like you want to include it only if it's related to some larger project. It could be one you started or one you participated in. Maybe like you got your work in a little display case or in your school's newspaper or magazine, or maybe started an Instagram account where you talked about your art and posted about it. Like all those things are cool, but we just want it to be more than just a hobby. I would never admit or deny someone based on a hobby, but rather the projects that they're in / are involved in. If we did an activity for the school year, would it be 42 weeks and some would be 10? Yeah, about that much. I think people like the admissions officers will know what you're talking about, obviously, because everyone's school year is different. Do colleges care about students taking harder classes senior year? Yes, because that's the most recent version of yourself. Again, they want kids who are going to be able to succeed in their academically rigorous environments and stuff like that. And they don't want to see someone, especially if you've already taken a lot of honors and AP classes, they don't want to see you slacking off in your senior year. So take those APs, obviously do well in them, but take those APs, take those honors classes because they will see those grades eventually. Take like if you take no classes until senior year, like still take those AP classes in senior year. Mostly because like sometimes it's not your fault. Like some schools don't let like underclassmen take APs, and colleges will get that information through your school profile, which your guidance counselor is responsible for sending. Is it okay if you took like mostly honors classes during your whole high school a year? Yeah, for sure. What if you have more classes in honors and extracurriculars? I mean, that's fine. I guess like it is what it is at this point. Like with you guys, I don't think it's helpful to like look at your extracurriculars and be like, oh, I should have done this, that, and the third. Cause like what's already done is done, you know? What you can focus on is obviously like what class you're taking senior year, the extracurriculars you are already involved in, and of course, writing strong essays and preparing for interviews, and maybe some like standardized tests if you're gonna do that. So if you have a lot of hard classes and honors, cool. Obviously, it's great to be well-rounded, have good extracurriculars, but there's nothing we can do about that now. The website name is just Happy Jordan with an IE, HAPPIE, like my account.com. Same applies to gap year students. Yes, I am going to save this live. Any tips for taking multiple APs while doing college apps? Treat college apps like an additional class. So I would try to spend like at least 30 minutes a day on college apps, at least like in the fall. So when you're thinking about September, October, when like I didn't apply to early school, so I was just kind of chilling until November. But September, October, 30 minutes a day, whether it's writing bullet points, whether like for an essay prompt, whether it's editing your Common App essay, like doing a little bit every day really helps. So that's my advice for that. Do they see senior year grades when you apply? Yes, they will get them because your guidance counselors are required to send them to them. So yeah, don't slack off. Worried about my grades. I ended with all A's junior year, but I did have like 3 C sophomore year. They care more about the trend, the positive trend. It's like, obviously, ooh, this is like major key, or not major key, but I guess a segue. In the writing section, you have this additional information box. Sometimes they ask you about like COVID specifically, but then also they'll ask you about other things. So this is like back when COVID was like newer, they had one COVID essay and then they had a separate non-COVID essay. This one is just like, oh, COVID and natural disasters and whatever. Also looking at family circumstances, future plans, education, like all that stuff. This is where you would put why you got those 3 C's. Sometimes it's mental health stuff. Sometimes it's physical health stuff. Sometimes it's like family disasters, natural disasters, all those things. You want to put that in the additional information section. Okay, how did you find good extracurriculars and passion projects besides the volunteer work? And people are asking about the website name. It's just happyjordan.com. I will have this zoomed in, I guess. It's literally just my username.com. So one extracurriculars in school should already have clubs, hopefully. If they don't, start one because whatever. Again, your college will get information about how many clubs are available in your schools. Some schools only care about sports and some schools like don't have clubs. Obviously, if you can start a club, that's cool. And then again, like passion projects, those are self-initiated projects. So for me, like I was starting a website, and with my pageant stuff, I was able to do, like I was able to basically help kids apply to high school when I was currently in high, or when I was a high school student. So those are things you do by yourself. It's just getting out in the community. You may want to collaborate with nonprofits in the area. Can you share with us your essays and supplementals? Yes, I can, because they're on the website. So if you go to happyjordan.com and then go to the little menu. Okay, can I zoom out for a second? Because this is like, oh my God. Okay, I can't zoom out. So we're just gonna live. But if you scroll down on the website, it will have it somewhere. Oh yes, my application essays. It also, I think if you go to happyjordan.com/essays, let me actually type the link in right so it can work. Yeah, happyjordan.com/essays has some of my essays. It has the ones that are so specific to me that you absolutely couldn't copy them. What did you put down in your honor section? I was a NHS member in my high school, and I was a National Hispanic Scholar. So those are the only two things I had. How do you craft a good Common App essay? We're gonna do a whole live about that. Listen, I'm an essay writer. If you don't want to wait until I cover it, you can go to this little document, which again, you can find on happyjordan.com. The first link, like how to apply to college, read the guide, it'll take you to this document. And if you open the document outline, you can find this like writing essays, and I talk about it a little bit more. Also on the website, I have like, what is this? A guide to college essays, common essay mistakes. Like these are past live streams that I've done that you can see. So like lovely, helpful resources for y'all. So we were at, Lord, I don't even remember. We were at the Common App. We were talking about honors and awards, kind of, and also getting to the writing section finally. Do you have any essay writing advice? Yes, I have plenty. I would say watch the videos or read the slides. I have the slides up, read the document, but we'll do a whole essay live stream. Can a club be found to be a passion project as well? Yes, but passion projects have an emphasis on the impact. So it's not just like starting, it's not just like, okay, I'm gonna do, like a club in my high school is a Pokemon appreciation club. Like it's not just going and having little weekly club meetings. A passion project would be like, okay, I have this Pokemon appreciation club, and then I was like, you know what? We should have a huge Pokemon and esports tournament in my school. Like that tournament and event would be the passion project, less so just the club itself. It's about impact always. Okay, I think I've answered a lot of the questions. What web browser did you use to make your website? This was just Squarespace. It's a little expensive though. I think like $20 a month. I also use WordPress for my other websites. When's the latest you could take the SATs to send them to schools? I think if you take it in November, you will have to send the scores. Like you can take it in November, but the scores will have to be sent to the schools immediately. Like you cannot see your scores before you send them. I think the latest you would have to send, or the latest you'd have to take it, like when you could actually see the scores, might be September, maybe early October. But each, like if you go on the SAT website and look up like SAT exam deadlines, something like that, it'll come up and it'll tell you when you get the score reports back. Okay, writing section, the section that everyone loves, 50 minutes less left. Yay, we're like doing this. We're doing so good on time. Okay, so the writing section is everyone's least favorite part because it's so long. But basically what I want y'all to do in August, so y'all got like 2 weeks, is do all of these sections except for writing, like before September 1st. Because this will all take you a couple of hours. Activities may take you a day or two, but the writing section is what I want you to spend all of September and maybe the first part of October working on. I'm so scared and nervous for college. I want to apply for Columbia, but I'm so clueless. Well, you won't be clueless anymore if you keep joining my like Google Classroom and attending these lives. I'll literally walk you through it, like hold your hand step by step. So do not worry, don't be nervous. I think everyone's nervous is one thing to remember. Like I was nervous. I didn't know if I'd get into any great school, but I was just like, you know what? They have to take someone. Like they have to accept somebody. These schools can't continue to exist if they don't take any students. So why not me? You know, so you just need to like, you can be scared, but just do it afraid anyway. How do you know? Is it bad if you took mostly college prep courses instead of IB? No, I didn't take any IB. It's usually dependent on the school that you go to, and that's usually out of your control. So, how do you know that the story is the one you want to talk about? I guess you're talking about common application stuff and like the personal statement essay. It's obviously different for each person, but I always say the topic or the essay is good if no one else could write it. And everyone says that, but it's so true. And we'll talk more about finding an idea, solidifying that idea, all that stuff in some other live streams. But again, if you just go to my website and look up guides college essays and this like common essay mistakes, you'll be able to see like my specific advice for it. Because I can talk about that for literally hours. Also in this writing essay section, I have the slides for it linked that you should be able to access as well. And it talks about like what makes a good idea, what's the point of the essay, all that kind of stuff. So definitely check that out. This document is literally holy grail. Yes, the document is shared. If you just go to my website, happyjordan.com, it's the first link here in this read the guide. And I will link it in the Google Classroom. It's actually not linked in Google Classroom. Would you put a sports award under activities or honors? I would say activities because you are on the team and that is an activity itself. And then you could put the award in the title of the activity. Do you have any beginner classes? If you're talking about like this kind of college app stuff and everything to do with it and like essay writing, then yes, I do. Does it help that you're the only person applying from your school? It gives you a little boost, but I would never accept or deny a student based on that fact alone. So it's cool. I think like one of my really good friends from Harvard was like the first kid in his school to get into Harvard, like really slave for him, but he was also like a star. Like he's a great kid, super smart, did a lot of stuff. So it's like really cool, but it's not something I would completely accept or deny a student based on. Am I able to separate NHS volunteer hours to other volunteering things? I would say keep that. If the thing is, if you're an NHS and you volunteered for like a billion different orgs, just keep it all under NHS and say volunteered 100 plus hours with a variety of organizations like ABC. But if you say only volunteered for 3 organizations through NHS, then you could split it out because you probably did a lot of time with each one. What's the difference between section C and D? Literally just the number of people. There is no difference between the two. They all get the same announcements. Do you know any scholarship websites that seem illegitimate? Anything that makes you pay for it. The thing is, some people think that Bold, FastWeb, scholarships.com are fake. Those are not fake. Like Bold is definitely not fake, but none of those are fake. It's just a lot of people use them. So it makes a lot of people and companies use them like to put their scholarships on. So it seems like no one's winning it, but you just don't know the person who won personally. But like those are real. Anything that doesn't make you pay for something is good. Also, of course, going to organizations' websites directly is helpful. Like I applied for an NAACP scholarship. So if you go on the NAACP website and that's where it's hosted, you know it's good. Are you only being compared against the people that apply to college from your community/school? Kind of. Yes. Yeah. So for example, if you go to a school that has like that offers all 30, 35 AP classes, you will not be compared to a student at a school that has no APs. Because like that's not fair to the student whose school has no APs or like no clubs or anything like that. Because kids don't really get to control what high schools they get into. Colleges want to see that you made the most of the school that you were at and your time there. So you're kind of competing against the kids in your school, but you're also at the same time competing against kids who fulfill a similar niche to you in a general college community. So don't think too much about who you're competing against because it doesn't make a difference. You got to beat them anyway. You have to win if you're competing against them. So you would just want to put together your strong list application, both against the kids in your school and the kids in the whole country and the world who are applying. Can you post scholarships that accept Canadian students? Yes, I could start looking for some of those. I know I've got a couple comments. How do you show a spike in your essays but not make them too similar? My essays are essays about random life events bad. No, they're not bad. I wrote about pageant stuff. A spike is not as important as you think it is. You want to have a brand, I guess is important, But like for me, like I said, my major was in STEM, my extracurriculars were in like activism. So those are two completely different things, but like they're united by me because I like them. You can definitely write an essay about a random life event, just make sure you talk about how it affected you. Don't try to get these people to pity you because they've read a billion essays about dogs dying, grandparents dying, and moving and divorce and stuff like that. But yeah, just quick review about the Common App like writing section. Literally, there's not much to talk about. You'll just see like, okay, they have the little prompts. Don't worry too much about the prompts just because there's always going to be one that says talk about whatever you want to talk about. You can copy and paste your essay here, or you could do like import from Google Drive. And then the additional information section is where you're going to talk about COVID, natural disasters, any dips in grades, things like that. You can also, some schools will let you talk about your like research. Some kids I've seen like pasted their research abstracts in there if they like have a published paper, which is cool. But yeah, last thing I want to definitely touch on is that when you're submitting your common application, like, and you go back to the dashboard, you will have to submit the Common App itself, like this like regular tab, and then you'll also have to submit the school's like application separately, and you're able to do that through this little My Colleges tab. And the questions, again, y'all, don't let it like hide from you. You want to go through and search for the specific questions. They'll usually have supplement or short answers or additional essays, and you're just going to copy and paste those prompts into a big Google document. This was mine when I was applying. And you're just literally going to list out all the supplements so you don't forget a single one. And then you're going to start planning like, okay, which ones are similar? How many essays do I actually need to write here? And then, of course, include the word count so you can copy and paste it. But this is what you should do as soon as you figure out what schools you're applying to. Like, even if you're like, okay, I don't know how many schools or what schools I'm going to apply to for sure, but I do know I'm definitely going to submit an application to Amherst and Cornell. So go ahead and like copy and paste those prompts into a Google Doc so you know what essays you have to write. That's just like easier, helps you like write little bullet points, start thinking about it. Like you don't want to wait till the last minute. Do you save these lives? Yes, I'll probably put this on YouTube or my website, but most likely YouTube. How many colleges would you recommend applying to? It depends on what kind of student you are. In my high school, it was very normal for students to apply to 15 schools. I think that was the average. I applied to 17 schools. I know some kids only applied to 3. I know some students applied to 9. For me, I always say you need at least like 2 to 3 safeties. I'm trying to see if we can get the college application tracker again. I think it's over here in college, actually. So I always say apply to like 2 to 3 safeties, and that's like based on the acceptance rate and like your stats in it. 3 to 4 reaches, and then like 5 targets, or like not, we're like 3 to 5 targets and then like 5+ reaches. But that's just who I am. To me, I'm thinking like, I'm already writing all these essays and doing all this work. Why would I apply to college and not apply to the best one? So that was kind of like my thinking. So I just kept adding schools to my list. Don't apply to more than 20 though. I think that's a bit too much. Do you remember any essay prompts you saw reoccur many times? Do they let you reuse the same essay for several schools? Yes, they let you reuse the same essays because the schools don't share information with each other, at least not information like that. You do want to make sure that it's helpful to tailor a little bit. So some essays that you wouldn't have to tailor, and I think I talk about this more in the document. So let me get that open. I think it's like types of essays. Like you're obviously going to reuse your personal statement essay. And then the why this school essay should never be reused. Why this major can be reused, but you want to tailor a little bit to the school that you're talking or applying to. Your extracurricular essays can be reused 100% just to make sure the word count makes sense. Just because that's like specifically about you, has nothing to do with the school. I do have templates for a why us essay, and this is all in, or it's not necessarily a template, it's a guide, because I think it's fun to be creative. I think schools should be creative. But it's in this document, again, happyjordan.com, and then it's the first link here. But it includes like, okay, what's the purpose of this essay? How long is it usually? What's your strategy? And again, please read this purpose of strategy thing. If you don't, you will literally write the essay wrong. And I have a little step-by-step process, including like how you're going to research it, how you're going to research academics, and extracurriculars and community, and then how you're going to organize the essay. So yeah, I'm interested in a CS, I'm interested in computer science, what extracurriculars would be good for that major. CS is very like project driven. So I'd say if you can code your own projects, you can make an app or a website, that's really cool. And I would encourage you to do that. At the same time, I think if you have any kind of related clubs in your school, that could be cool. I know my school had a robotics club or team. There are a lot of nonprofits just in the world and probably also in your state/city that do that like make sure students have access to like STEM experiment resource type things. So do your research, see if you can find any. Just look up like STEM nonprofits in whatever state you're in. And then also like just related subjects. So like obviously CS and math are really tied. So you might want to join your school's math team. I know some of my friends who are really interested in robotics and coding also were a part of the chess team. So things like that. How did you learn so much about the college application process? I was very fortunate to go to a high school where they invited admissions officers to talk to us about the college application process very often, all the time. So I've been in this process since sophomore year of high school, which for me was like 2016, 2017. And then obviously as a creator, I've worked with a lot of organizations that do this work. I've talked to a lot of admissions officers through these organizations. So yeah, I've just been in this space for so long. Would you recommend adding more activities to your additional info? No, because I say if it's not important enough to get to your top 10, then it's probably not important enough to be on your application. That's like something I feel very strongly. Do you have any resources for SAT prep? I think Khan Academy has a free prep course, which is like, I love Khan Academy. Shout out to them. And I personally did a Kaplan test prep course. It was a little expensive for sure. But also there are a lot of TikTok pages that do like SAT prep, and like there are a lot of YouTube channels too. So like Khan Academy, I just love them, so check them out, but also just any kind of like literally Google or YouTube SAT math help, because there are a lot of free resources. Are there anything else? How long is this meeting gonna take? I'm literally about to wrap up, just like answering any last minute questions y'all have. Just because we've hit the hour. Woohoo. And wait, are you only being compared to the people in your school or district? Yes and no. So when colleges, and this will kind of be the last question, and I'll close this and I'll have the little website. So y'all remember to go to the website to like get all this help. But basically, when you're applying to colleges, there is no checklist to say we need 5 kids from Bronx Science, 6 kids from Stuyvesant High School, and 7 kids from Virginia Tech. Like no school is doing that. Colleges don't care if there are schools that they don't accept students from, or if there are schools that they accept a bunch of students from. They do want kids from every state. So that's like something to pay attention to. If you live in a state like let's see, Alaska, Hawaii, but then also some of the more like rural states in the middle of the country don't send a lot of like applicants to like top 10 or 20 schools. So that may help a little bit. So you're compared to the kids in your school in that they want the best kid, not like the best kid from that school, not like, oh, we want the kid with the highest grades from your school. Like the valedictorian in my school usually never gets into like a top 10 school. So it's never that, but it's like they just want to see kids who've taken the most advantage of the opportunities available to them. A student with 0 APs at their schools will never be compared to a student with 30 APs at their school, because that's just not fair. Like maybe this kid would have taken 30 APs if they had access to the 30 APs. But it's like, do I want a kid who had access to 20 APs and didn't take either? Or would I want a kid who went to a school that didn't offer APs, but took like 6 dual enrollment classes of their own kind of like initiative? Like obviously you'd take the one who did it by themselves because they're showing more promise than the kid who like did nothing with the opportunities available. Like again, college applications is just a betting game, and these schools want to make money and they want you to be rich, successful, and famous and then donate back to them. Okay, how helpful was Kaplan? How much did your score increase if you're comfortable sharing? I think my score went up by about 200 points. I think I got like 1260 when I was like taking a practice exam, like my first practice exam with them. And then my final score was a 1470. Let's see. Do you think foreign languages classes are important because my school did not offer until senior? Again, it's not something I would reject, or I don't think anyone would reject or accept a school, like a student, because of that. Because like literally it was out of your control. Anything that's out of your control entirely, don't worry about. Like, don't worry about it. I think it's great for kids to take it if they can. I know not all students have access to those foreign language classes. So don't worry about it. Don't worry about it. Take it if you can. I think it's fun. You'll have to take a foreign language class in college anyway. So yeah, it seems like that's all we got going for right now. We did this for an hour. I feel good for us. Go team. Wow, 200 points. Yeah, I love it. Did you report the score to every school? Yes, I did, because I was in the range for every school. I say if you're above the 25th percentile, send the score. If you're close to the 25th percentile, send the score. If you're way below it, don't send the score. That's just a general rule. But we could talk about it more in future Q&As, future whatever. Join the Google Classroom. You can find it at happyjordan.com/social. And I'll like add the recording to this probably on YouTube and stuff like that. I have all the links for Google Classroom stuff. And if you go to like this website, again, this is like literally the link in my bio, take you to the huge site with all the stuff. And then you want to click this read the guide if you want to get the Google Doc I was looking at. I've been making this for, I don't even know, maybe like 3-4 years, but it has literally all of my knowledge. But thank you so much for hanging out with me today. Hopefully y'all learned 1 or 2 or 20 things. That would be lovely. Can we move these to Zoom? Yes, I definitely will. I just want to make sure I know what Zoom plan to get, because I don't want people to be locked out. Do colleges look at the language I speak? Sure, but again, it's not something you would accept or deny someone over. So don't worry too much about that. But yes, I love you guys so much. Thank you for tuning in, and I will see you, I guess, in the next live or in the next video.